The psychologists that developed the NLP model of communication noted that there are actually three modes that your brain utilizes to process incoming sensory information: deletion, distortion, and generalization. Last week, we were talking about deletion, when your unconscious simply doesn't make you aware of stuff it actually has picked up from your environment. Today, I want to introduce the other modes of perception, distortion and generalization, that can also dramatically affect what we perceive as reality. Hey, I'm Ryan, and I'm a master practitioner and trainer of neurolinguistic programming, a hypnotherapist, a master NLP coach, and an expert in programming the deep mind. And I teach and heal leaders, entrepreneurs, and parents, people just like you, so you can harness your innate gifts, break through anxiety and overwhelm, and reclaim your true identity and purpose so you can lead with confidence. If you want to hear more about the latest secrets of how to uncover your true self and create your dream life, and how to give your kids the same gift now, then hit that subscribe button and let's get started. In this first video of the series, I talked about how we all live in a virtual reality and how that can lead to conflict. We talked about how the deep mind often doesn't pass information up from our senses all the way through to our conscious awareness. It's just not possible. Our deep mind is getting 1,000 times more information than our conscious rational mind can process. So today I'm going to reveal a couple of more specific tricks that your personal VR goggles are up to that also lead to conflict and misunderstanding. Now, why does all this matter? This filtering process absolutely and completely determines what you can and do perceive. What you perceive, not what really happened, directly drives how you respond. And how you respond, whether you shut down your partner or your kid's curiosity or enthusiasm, or whether you embrace and amplify it, directly determines how readily they will connect and engage with you in the future. And so understanding how we end up being so sure we know what happened, when in fact your brain is almost certainly telling you something quite different from what really happened, is a massive first step to unpacking conflict and eventually eliminating it. And when it comes to our relationship with our kids, these automatic judgments about what really happened or what their intentions were, they are the major determining factor for whether those kids develop a growth mindset and whether they achieve autonomy, mastery, deep connection, or whether they suffer from anxiety, depression, and self-limitation throughout their lifetime. Before we dive deeper, if you're not yet a subscriber, let's talk about taking our relationship to the next level. The platforms that you find us on all make this easy. They want you to subscribe, and so do we, because we want to share the tricks and techniques that completely changed the course of our lives and that healed our family with as many people as possible. Knowing these secrets of the mind makes all the difference to reduce that psychoemotional damage that our judgments and reactivity end up creating in our kids. Look, some of this crap will get created in our kids' minds. There's no way to get around somehow messing up your kids, but their minds are always taking action, trying to keep them safe. There will always be situations that will trigger that safety reflex, even if there's no real danger. But the less psychological and emotional debt that gets created early in life, the less it compounds. And the less it compounds, the easier it is to undo later. So subscribe now and make sure you don't miss any of those tricks and techniques in my future videos. And I can't stress enough, there is no judgment here. You didn't know the tools that you are now learning, and you certainly never intended any harm to your kids or to your partner or to yourself. Fundamentally, everything you're doing is driven by your mind trying to keep you safe. But the strategies your mind is using, reactivity or hiding or disconnection, they were largely created before you were 5, 6 years old, and they've been compounding in their narrowness and their force ever since. Yes, again, I'm saying compounding. The negative experiences we have as children, or more specifically, the way our young and still fairly immature minds try to make sense of these experiences to keep us safe, they absolutely create a kind of psycho-emotional debt that just compounds, just like the credit card debt does when you pay nothing each month or just the minimum balance. When you learn these tools, your way of being will change radically and your children will feel it. And more importantly, their young minds will not feel as much need to keep them safe. So they will take on less baggage now, which means a lot less compounding, which means a whole lot more autonomy, mastery, purpose, and connection for them right from now. So last time we talked about deletion, how our minds may simply not notice details at all, or at least our conscious minds may not notice them. And this might seem to be the most dramatic form of filtering. It's not necessarily the most problematic. Distortion refers to become consciously aware of something in your environment, but the perception, the meaning, or the magnitude has been changed from what really happened. to something quite different. A pretty common example: someone raises their voice because they perceive it's hard to hear them, or because they're having trouble getting an idea across and their internal frustration just causes their voice to get a little louder. But as a listener, perhaps you have a strong belief formed in their early childhood, probably an unconscious belief you're not even aware of. When voices start to raise, that means I'm being judged. Or worse, there's some form of anger or violence might be coming. And as the listener's brain witnesses a slight raise in a speaker's voice, it may take no chances that this might be a signal of bad things to come, and it may create the conscious perception that the speaker is now yelling at them or getting angry at them. Reality, slightly raised voice. Virtual reality, anger and bad stuff is coming fast. Either get defensive and lash back or run for the hills. If the listener's safety was actually at stake, and it usually isn't, then that might be the best thing to do to keep them safe, either fight or flee. But when it means that you blow up at your teenager for yelling at you or for their tone of voice that's disrespectful, we can be almost certain that was a loss for both of you. And worse, it compounds the effect of the times that this has happened in the past that may have given rise to beliefs in your teenager that no matter what they do, you're going to get angry at them. Like there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Because every time I try to communicate, my mom or dad yells at me. Now, the danger with distortion and generalization, which we're about to discuss, is that we get a conscious awareness of a signal that's loud and clear. It's not like deletion, where we didn't maybe even notice that we were being spoken to. With deletion, we may not know anything's happened. But with distortion or generalization, we get a signal loud and clear. Problem is, the signal may be completely incorrect. And often it's easier to explain to somebody why you weren't actually ignoring them if you didn't hear them than it is to convince them that you really weren't yelling at them. Okay, so now let's talk about generalization. That's where we become consciously aware of something in our environment, but the way we perceive it and meaning that we get instantly has been changed to match some broader, less specific, but common way of thinking that we've developed. And this often looks and sounds like a stereotype. You may see someone take a deep breath, for example, and the instantaneous experience you have is that the person is frustrated or tense. Maybe there's a deep belief that when someone takes a deep breath, that almost always means they're frustrated. Except maybe they had been feeling tense. Maybe they noticed that they'd been holding their breath, but maybe the tension had nothing to do with you. And so they took a deep breath to just release that tension and reconnect with you. But your brain just narrowed down your perception and made this generalized assumption that when someone takes a deep breath, they're getting frustrated. And so you get a very real experience of that person in front of you being frustrated. You're convinced of it, and so you respond accordingly. Now, in all these cases of deletion, distortion, or generalization, your virtual reality goggles are filtering the real reality coming in from your senses and having you perceive something that can be, in fact, quite far off from real reality. The mechanism that does this filtering, it's powered by deep unconscious beliefs, values, emotional triggers, all of which I want to discuss in much more detail. And we'll do that next week. Next week, I'm going to deep dive into what I call our Mercury model of the mind, which is a very practical and straightforward mental model that helps to show how this filtering works and how we can work to change us, which moves us from not only being able to detect when our perceptions are maybe virtual reality and not real reality, but also to be able to rewire those damn glasses to give you more of that real reality all the time. So until next week, here's a practice that you will get a lot of value from if you do it daily. Be curious and start to collect some data. Make a commitment with your kids, your partner, maybe colleagues, that whenever you feel some judgment of them, whenever you have a negative reaction, whenever there's a conflict occurs, that you'll stop and you'll look to uncover how it might actually be a misunderstanding. Be curious. Ask about the other person's experience and their intentions. Then use this model of deletion, distortion, and generalization to discover how did you get from what was their intention to your perception. What were those sneaky VR goggles of yours actually up to? And write it down. Keep a journal. Since your VR goggles are programmed, which is to say your deep mind has patterns, as you start to do this, clear patterns will emerge. And the more you notice them from the journaling, the easier it will become for you to notice them in the moment and avoid or de-escalate conflicts right then and there. Next week, we'll look at how to recover the information that gets deleted or distorted or generalized, which is a next step towards being able to reprogram your VR goggles forever. And reprogrammed VR goggles means less psychoemotional damage for your kids, your partner, and yourselves. And that means more autonomy, mastery, purpose, and connection. Now, who wouldn't want that? And who wouldn't want to subscribe to this channel? You're just a click away from total bliss and self-love. Okay, maybe that's 2 clicks away, but you're 1 click away from subscribing, and we'd love to have you in the tribe. We're sure that what we have to share will change your life and the life of your kids and your loved ones. And your likes, subscriptions, and sharing us with all your friends and relations really helps us get this work out into the world. So tune in next week when I'll start to reveal how the delete, distort, and generalize is happening for you, how your specific deep unconscious beliefs, values, expectations, how are they driving these patterns for you, and learn what you can do about it.